You ever see a company go from being just another name on the list to an absolute giant, and it feels like it happened overnight? Well, in the world of Australian gold mining, that's pretty much exactly what just went down. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of Greatland Resources and figuring out how they pulled it off.
So, just to get a sense of the scale we're talking about, let's start with this number. 750 million Australian dollars. That's what Greatland Resources was sitting on in cash as of September 2025. And here's the real kicker. That massive pile of cash, it comes with zero debt. Nothing. For a company in an industry like mining, which just eats up capital, that is, well, it's an almost unheard of position to be in. So the big question is, how on earth did they do it?
All right, so first up, let's take a look at how Greatland actually became this new giant in Australian gold and copper, right in the heart of Western Australia's Paterson province.
The entire story really hinges on one single incredibly bold move, a perfectly timed bet that would basically change the company's fortunes forever.
It all kicked off with this massive announcement back in September 2024. Greatland went all in, acquiring two enormous gold-copper assets. Now, this wasn't some small deal. This was a high-stakes, go-big-or-go-home play that was either going to make them or break them.
In their own investor presentations, the company calls it a well-timed acquisition. That might just be the understatement of the year. So you gotta ask, right? Just how well-timed was it, really?
And wow, these numbers pretty much tell the whole story. Since they announced that deal, the price of gold just skyrocketed by 67%. Copper jumped 22%. They basically bought these assets right at the bottom, just before a massive bull run in commodities. It was this incredible mix of smart strategy and just phenomenal luck.
So, they made the bet, and the timing couldn't have been better. But what did that actually mean for their bank account? Let's look at the payoff, because it came way faster than anyone could have possibly predicted.
I mean, just look at these numbers. They're staggering. The upfront cost for the acquisition was $541 million, but in just the first 10 months, that mine generated $885 million in cash. They didn't just pay it back, they made 1.6 times what they paid in less than a year. That is absolutely spectacular.
But, and this is important, it would be a huge mistake to think this was all just about rising prices and good luck. A massive part of this success story comes down to simply better, more focused management. Greatland came in and proved they could run this asset way more efficiently.
And the proof is right here in the data. Under Greatland, gold recovery, that's the percentage of gold they actually get out of the rock, hit a 5-year high. And get this, look at the safety numbers. The injury rate was more than cut in half. So they're getting more gold out, doing it more efficiently, and they're making the whole site a lot safer for everyone.
Okay, so you've got this mountain of cash and a proven ability to run the operation like a well-oiled machine. What's next? Well, all that early success is now funding a very clear two-pronged strategy to make sure this isn't just a flash in the pan, but the start of some serious long-term growth.
And here's the strategy in a nutshell. On one hand, you have Telfer. That's the established giant, the operational engine, the cash cow, and critically, it has the only processing plant for hundreds of kilometers around. Then you have Havieron, one of the country's best undeveloped, high-grade deposits. So Telfer is the factory and Havieron is the top-quality raw material they're going to feed into it for years to come.
And this is where it gets really, really smart. Havieron is what you call a brownfield project. Think about it like this. Instead of building a brand new factory out in the middle of nowhere, you're building it right next door to an existing one that already has all the roads, power, and equipment you need. Because this world-class deposit is just 45 kilometers away from the huge Telfer plant, Greatland saves potentially billions in construction costs. It's a massive strategic advantage.
So what are they doing with all that cash? They're pouring it right back into the engine. We're talking up to $260 million in the next financial year alone. They're funding the largest drilling program in Telfer's entire 50-year history. The goal is pretty simple. Find more gold and keep this central hub running for many, many more years.
So, when you put all these pieces together, the cash, the assets, the smart strategy, you get a really clear picture of what we can call the Greatland growth engine. Let's break down the investment case.
So here's the bottom line. First, you've got top-tier production from a massive asset. Then, you've got mine life, guaranteed for the long term by a world-class project. You've got the infrastructure, with a processing plant that dominates the whole region. You've got the funding, a super strong balance sheet to pay for it all. And finally, you have a clear plan for growth, pouring money back into the ground.
It's an incredibly powerful combination.
So, from a perfectly timed bet to a debt-free powerhouse in just over a year, it's safe to say Greatland Resources has totally rewritten its own story. The final question really isn't if they'll succeed, but rather with a proven strategy and a massive war chest, just how much is this new giant going to reshape the entire Australian gold industry?